Hello and welcome to another episode of the Business of Business podcast. I'm your host, Roy. Of course, we are the podcast that brings you a wide variety of guests that talk to a diverse set of topics. What we want to do is hopefully we can maybe bring up some topics that you may not have thought about, or if you have something that's keeping you up at night, we can definitely provide you some information and some professionals to help you there. Today, we're excited to have Steve Wiideman with us. He is a writer, a scientist, professor, and practitioner of search optimization. Steve lives and breathes and eats SEO, SEM, and inbound marketing. When he's not leading his team of SEO consultants for franchise, multi-location, and e-commerce brands, he's a cheeseball romantic, entertaining dad, and world traveler with a passion for life, embracing culture and diversity. While serving as an adjunct professor at UCSD and CSUF, Steve's also building the Academy of Search while volunteering time to help improve transparency and industry standards as an agency trainer. Steve, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Roy. Thanks for having me. I know just hearing a little bit of my bio brings back so many memories of the reason I decided to leave the employee role and kind of venture off on my own as an entrepreneur, and how scary that journey was.
Yeah, well, tell us a little bit about that. Tell us a little, as was marketing something or SEO something that you've always been into, or have you kind of grown into that through your career?
Sure. So I was actually started in web design while I was still in the military. It was the late 90s. And we just discovered this whole thing called web design and building websites. And I don't know, I just found an interest in it. So when I wasn't on the field and playing with with rifles and and guns and so forth, we were playing around with Gopher servers and Wi-Fi. And I was part of an operation at the time where I was teaching soldiers how to use laptops to be able to measure and fire javelin missiles right over hills. It was really kind of neat. So yeah, I just discovered a love for all things. And when I got back home and I was working for IBM, I had a lot of friends that said, "Hey, I got a DJ business. Can you build me a website? Hey, I've got a friend of mine who has a couple of limousines, but he's having trouble, now that people are using the internet, trying to be found." And
Right.
So I'm like, well, I guess I could try to figure this stuff out, right? And I like designing websites. Let me see what I can do. And before I knew it, I was hooked. I was addicted to all things digital marketing. How do I get more traffic? And 2 years later, after sort of being Neo from the Matrix and just diving in day and night into this thing, the DJ comes to me and he says, "You got to turn it off. I'm one guy. I can't have this many people calling me." And I'm like, I might be onto something here. And so I went back to school.
Problem to have.
I know, right? So I went back to school and I got a degree in e-business management, and I learned how web servers work and got to install web servers. I learned how databases worked and learned everything about SQL and how databases are created and how to never type in the words drop table into programming and destroy everything. Learned some programming. We started with was it QBasic and then C++ and a little bit of JavaScript. I'd already been coding HTML when I went back to school, so that part of it was pretty easy for me. But then I learned how to put all that stuff together: the graphic design, the server, the databases, put all of that into a project so that I could take a site from conception to launch to all the way to the marketing side of it. And my first job out of college, I left the world of IBM over there and went to a kind of a startup. It was called Paciolan. And Paciolan was like Ticketmaster. We ran 20% of the ticketing sales for the MLB, and we did theaters. And whenever you'd book a ticket, you'd always see, evenue dot whatever their site was, and that's where the ticketing thing happened. And that's where I got to really, show them what I was made of as it pertained to digital marketing. Not just with HTML and JavaScript, but I also got to do some things with email marketing. Yeah. So I just discovered a passion for all things digital and, made that my career.
Yeah, that's a cool story. I guess I'm not that in depth, but like this, I was of a certain age when the digital revolution came along, and so I've always been interested in it. And it's just like yourself, you've seen such a change that used to, if you put up a website, you were probably virtually one of the only ones in your industry that had one up. So,
Yeah,
you know,
right. It was
you
just
just
something
got
you put on your business card, but it wasn't good for anything else.
right. And, you know, you gain traffic just because there's nobody else in your space. But I think now we've evolved to, there's so much stuff out there that, you know, you really have to find ways, not only in your web design to set yourself apart and capture that audience, but also you have to have a way for people to find you. I mean, this is like being, it's like looking for your friend in Times Square on New Year's Eve. It's tough.
Yeah, and the lockdown taught us a lesson that we can't depend on people just strolling by our store and coming in as a customer.
Right.
It's not going to work like that anymore. We have to be online. We have to pay attention to make sure that the products and services that we sell, we appear for
Yeah.
in search results in Google and Bing and YouTube, wherever people are looking for what we have and what we know about what we do. We want to make sure that we have content there to drive customers who either have an affinity or a specific demand for what we have. And so many businesses just didn't realize that. And when that pandemic hit, they're like, the phone stopped ringing. Even our clients, Applebee's and IHOP, who, you know, between the two of them have like 3,500, you know, stores, locations. You know, when this pandemic happened, they're like, oh my God, what are we going to do? We need to put all our marketing on pause and stop. And we said, no, we're gonna help you through this. Don't pause your marketing, pause spending if you need to, but we're going to carry the load for you. And what we ended up doing was creating delivery and takeout pages across every single location. So if you were to do a search for breakfast delivery near me or breakfast delivery in your city, and a lot of other queries for restaurant terms for Applebee's, you would actually see takeout, curbside, carside, related keywords will drive you to their little pages that we help create. And because of that, we think we played a pretty, you know, significant role in keeping the kitchen lights on during a period where those restaurants were about to shut down.
Yeah.
And now because, you know, there's two demands, right? Demand one was, how do we get people to still buy from us when, you know, they're locked in their homes? Now the demand is everybody's here, but all our employees quit and they don't want to come back.
Right.
So now we're launching job pages, and we have job pages now across every single location. And now they're getting phone calls from people saying, yeah, I need a job. My unemployment's going to run out in September and I need to start, you know, looking for something new. And so now we're trying to satisfy that through digital marketing, through creating a web page on the website that targets the specific thing that, you know, we're trying to drive people in from.
Yeah.
So,
No, that's a great idea, because you know, we saw such a shift in such a hurry. And I think that the companies, like you said, that could adapt, they're the ones that are still here, because there was a lot that either they couldn't, some resistance or whatever, but unfortunately they're not still in business anymore. So, but the other thing is, like, there was that big ramp up, and I don't think we're going to see it go back down to pre-COVID levels. I mean, I'll ask you, I think I can speak from my point of view, is that we would order some grocery type items off of Amazon or the local company every now and then. But now,
Instacart.
yeah. But now it's like we are pretty much, I haven't been to the grocery store, you know, probably in the last year. And we've just got where we do everything online that we possibly can. So, you know, people like me, we're not going back. It's just a waste of time to go in there when we could sit down and place our order and get it delivered. But what are y'all seeing, you know, across the industries that you serve? Do you feel like we're going to maintain a certain level?
Oh, there's a massive retention, right? When I look at the data, granted, month over month, the numbers are dropping, right? Month over month, they're slowly dropping. More people are going out. They are kind of getting back to somewhat of a normal life, but it's a very slow decrease. We're looking at like 3 to 5% per month going down, where people are looking for directions more than they are looking to place an order online.
Yeah.
So I'd say it depends on the industry. For shopping and clothes shopping, my wife still loves to go into the stores. She'll spend 3 hours in Torrid. I kid you not. And she'll come out and she'll see me hanging from the rafter and, like, you know, no, but just mentally.
Yeah.
And And yeah, so there are circumstances where people still do want to shop, but offline. But I do agree. I think a lot of people have assimilated to the idea that they can purchase and buy things online. Amazon, well, you can see Amazon stocks, right? It's pretty obvious that everybody has latched on to the idea that they can get whatever they need from Amazon, which is a bit of a shame, because there are some really good local businesses that we love to patronize and visit that that are probably not going to make it, because the traffic just hasn't gone back. Even though that 3 to 5% probably helps a little bit, they're coming out of a deficit, during a period where, and for restaurants, some of the restaurants had to buy all this patio stuff, and then they had to buy heaters, when it got cold, and then so they've got all this debt that they created to be able to stay in business.
Right.
And if it doesn't come back right away, like a hockey stick on a graph, they're gonna have to get more loans and get more and more in debt. So I really feel for the small business owner, and I would encourage anybody, who feels comfortable going out, to go out, patronize the local businesses. They're doing online too. Purchase from them online, even though their system isn't as efficient as an Amazon, or as some of the bigger names that are out there, the Targets and Walmarts. Put up with the wacky system, and then go in and tell them, show them your experience, so that they can work with their development teams to get better. But don't just not patronize them because their mobile sites are awful. We're trying as digital marketers to help them, but they don't have a lot of budget. In many cases, we're just doing it pro bono to try to help businesses that we care about.
Yeah, because I'm like you. We actually were having a conversation the other day about a little town just not too far from here that I spent some time in growing up, and I was thinking that the feel that you got when you walked into this old hardware store, they still had the wood floors that were all worn down, the like washers and screws and everything were in these boxes. And I was just thinking, how far that we have come. That the sad thing is those people aren't in business anymore. It's made our life a little easier, ordering online, but I think we have to have a good balance, because sometimes we do need to go in and actually see this thing or touch this thing, or the social contact as well. Sometimes you just want to go out and see people.
So for you business owners that are listening, I think there's some things that you can do with your webmaster to prioritize and maybe get a little bit more visibility when people are searching locally. The first thing I'd mention is mobile experience. Really, go through your website and place an order, see what it's like. Can you do it from your thumb? Can you do it without having to fill in information on a keyboard? Can you tap your way through an experience and pay with something like Google Pay or Apple Pay or Amazon, without having to put in credit card information? Can you make that experience for users so seamless that they can literally find what they need and purchase and get out in a few seconds? Accessibility is important. Make sure you're using large fonts. Make sure that you're not putting images or text on images so that those people that have visual impairments, can't see it. And search engines can't always read the text in an image either. It's really like binary code to them. Making sure that that you've thought about security and accessibility. If they don't see that little secure lock on the browser, they're probably going to go back to Google and choose a competitor. And over time, Google's going to say, wow, that must not have been a very helpful result. I'm going to demote it and put this other more secure website up. Make sure that you're thinking about privacy, and if someone's concerned about what you're doing with their data, that they can click on the privacy policy, see that it was updated recently, and know what you're doing with their information. So privacy, security, accessibility, mobile experience, all of those things are create a strong foundation for a successful digital marketing campaign, not just for keyword rankings, but also for users who get to you from referral and so forth.
Yeah, and that's an important part. It's I've seen to have talked about this on maybe 2 or 3 shows of late, is that it's important for companies to go through that buying process, because what I've found is get all excited, ready to buy, get all the stuff in, and then the submit button is below the screen and you can't move it up, or there's this and there's that. And so also, how many clicks does it take, or how burdensome is it compared to others in your field? Make it as easy as possible. And I think that was one thing we could say about Steve Jobs. I think he pretty much mandated to his engineers, it needs to be 3 clicks or less to make this thing, to make this procedure work. And it's important. I mean, unfortunately, our attention spans have grown short and our patience have grown short. And so it's like you go onto the site, and if it's not working, close it and move on to the next one.
And if we're used to a 2-second experience where we know exactly what to do when we get to a website, and some website that hasn't updated itself is taking longer than that, it's, why should I have to wait? I can go back to a site that's going to be faster, and that's going to hurt us in the orders we get. And over time, we're going to our website's going to fizzle away and not appear in search results anymore.
Right.
Yeah. So I would think, also there's probably 3 areas that I might focus on. If you're a small business or mid-sized business, you've got somebody who manages your website. Hopefully you have a team of people, that one who focuses on the writing to create content that people are searching for, 2, the person who's in charge of the technical pieces to make that mobile experience great, and 3, somebody who can help promote that website. But you're going to get with them every month, and you're going to say, how are we doing in improving these 3 areas? How are we improving our relevancy to what people are looking for? When I search for shoe repair in Dallas, I see 10 pages that show up on page 1. I see us on page 2. What are these guys on page 1 doing that we're not? Let's look at their titles. Let's look at their descriptions. Let's look at their content. Let's look at it on mobile. Let's look at it on desktop. And let's come up with a better page that's more helpful than what the other 10 pages have. The second thing we want to look at every month is, how are we improving our visibility off the website? So somebody needs to be out there making connections with similar brands. If you're shoe repair, maybe you're going to work with a company that sells shoes but doesn't repair them, or a few of them, to build those partnerships where they're going to refer business to you and maybe even link to your website. Those links, Google's going to crawl and follow and pass some voting power to, and move your whole website up for a various number of keywords. And the last thing is, when those 10 results do come up in the search, how do you stand out? How do you stand out so that you get clicked on more? Do you stand out because you've put your customer ratings on there and they can see 5 stars under your listing? Do you stand out because you've answered some FAQ questions and have 2 other listings underneath your listing with some questions and answers? Do you stand out because you have a video or a image thumbnail next to your listing because you've told your developer to add some code to your site to make sure that we've got, a really standout experience in the search results? So if you focus on those 3 areas every month with your team and set some KPIs, some key performance indicators of where you want to be in a year from now, every month you sit down, how's our relevancy? How's our off-page visibility? How's our search experience for users that do see us in search? And if you're nurturing those 3 things, you're going to see success in search engine optimization.
Yeah, important part that this isn't like the rotisserie oven that you see on late night TV that you set it and forget it. I mean,
I miss those days though. That was so easy. Just throw up 50 words on a page somewhere, let it go, and then 2 months later you get traffic. Yeah, that was the early 2000s.
Because if you even get it dialed in today, things change so much tomorrow that you just have to stay on top of it. And there's competitors moving up and down.
They're not going to rest on their laurels, right? That's for sure.
So what, I don't want to not trying to stump you, but do you know right off the top of your head, what is the percentage of people that actually would roll to page 2 to look for results? Do they still publish those?
Sure. Well, it varies based on the query, right? What's your intent? Is your intent doing research? Are you doing a what, who, how, why, strategies, tips, ideas? If you're doing more of a research search, you'll go as far as page 3. But if you're looking for a product or service, if that product is $20, $50, you're probably not going to go past the first 3 results. You're going to get what you need as long as you feel like this is a site I trust. This is a site that I'm familiar with because I've seen it other places and they've helped me in the past with questions I've had. I've heard of them. Then you're not going to go past the first 3 or 4 results. If your product is over $50, if you're getting into the 200, 300, 400 range, then they might go to page 2 because they want to sort of price things out. They want to see the difference. That's a larger investment. They want to make sure they're getting value, not necessarily the best price, but value. And I think you can provide value by, giving people a sense of guarantee that, hey, if you're not happy with this product, we're going to, make sure we send it back. We're going to warranty it. Here's why you should buy it from us and not go to Amazon and try to find a cheaper rate. the loyalty programs, the initial discounts that you get when you visit a website. So yeah, again, depending on the intent of what the user is searching for, if it's something low cost, then I just need to search, buy it, and be done.
Yeah.
First couple results. If it's search, but I want to make sure I'm getting value, they'll go as far as page 2. But if it's just informational, they're gonna do all sorts of searches. They'll probably even click on image search and video search, and eventually go over to YouTube, because image search isn't that great in Google, or video search isn't. And so they'll go over to YouTube and find, exactly what they're looking for some of those queries.
So another question I had is, can you tell us the difference between SEO and SEM?
Of course. So there's 2 ways to look at it. For us older veteran digital marketers, search engine marketing is the all-encompassing umbrella of everything we do in search. It is, optimizing for organic results. It's optimizing for universal search with our images and videos. It's having paid ads, at the top for shopping ads, for, your static text ads. So search engine marketing is sort of everything that you do for search. But in some context, in some functional roles, they've considered SEM more on the paid search side, specifically around paid search ads. So you'll hear it both ways. For me, I like to look at search engine marketing as paid and organic, but in a lot of business functions, they'll say there's SEO, the organic side, and SEM, the paid side. And that's okay. I don't know why it did that 10 years ago. It did this little bit of a shift, but there's 2 ways of looking at it. Now, the difference in the algorithms isn't that great, right? The only major difference is if you're willing to spend more on the ads, you have a higher probability of appearing more often, right? It is an auction still, but the auction isn't strictly cost. The auction has a lot to do with quality and ad relevancy. Even if you're willing to spend $100 a click, if you're sending somebody to a page that has nothing to do with the keyword that you're bidding on, Google's not going to display your listing. So there's still that algorithm, but the principles are the same, right? It's making sure that the relevancy is there. Do we have an ad that's relevant to the keyword, or an organic, a listing that's relevant to the keyword?
Yeah.
When they get to our page, is the content helpful? Is it accessible? Is it secure? Are they paying attention to privacy? In Google Ads, they'll actually disallow or disapprove an ad if you don't have a privacy policy, and they won't tell you why. You're just like, why did my ad get disapproved? And you didn't realize because you didn't say what you're doing with their data. So the algorithms are very similar, and they're all focused around quality, relevancy. One of there's two actual hacks that you could do to sort of marry paid and organic. The first is, if you want a better score in paid and pay less per click, make sure that the language that you use in the ad is represented on the page. So that way, when a user does see an ad and they go to the page, like, yeah, that's exactly what I was expecting to see. But if you say, here's why you should buy from us, and they go to the page and it says, here's another reason why you should buy from us, you're like, wait a minute, what happened to the first reason? So there's a lot of that disconnect sometimes. So that's one. The other thing to do is you take some of the data after running your ads for a few months. You can take some of those search terms that actually triggered your ads and move those over to your content strategy to make sure that you're addressing those keywords from an organic standpoint. Now you'll start to appear more often organically, because you're taking the data from your paid search and applying it to organic. In fact, you're taking search terms that produce sales or leads for you, so that you're getting higher quality clicks in organic, not just more traffic. And then you take the same thing from your organic data using Google's free Search Console tool. Just go to Google Search Console, log in, go to the specific performance URL for the page. It'll give you a whole list of words that Google served that listing for. Take those words, prune out all the weird stuff that doesn't make sense for you, put it in exact match, and throw it into your Google Ads campaign, and watch your quality scores and cost per click performance go through the roof. So there's some things that you could do if you want to do both, but having both does give you more visibility, gives you more real estate, and the data shows that there's a higher likelihood of a searcher actually clicking on one of your listings if you've got both. So which one do you do? I say do both of them. Pay less over time for the paid search while you continue to nurture organic, but I would say do both for sure.
Yeah, and I think one thing I learned not long ago is if you think about things in terms of Google and who they are and what they do, the best, I guess, thing I heard about to put that in a concise manner is that, they are very focused on user experience. And so kind of to what you were saying, if you provide a poor experience for their people that they're sending to you, they're going to figure that out, and then they're going to quit sending people. So important to kind of keep that in mind.
Yeah, and they've created a whole new dashboard for you. Again, it's free. You just go to Google Search Console and you'll go over to the tab that says Core Web Vitals, and they'll have this whole list of things that you can do to improve user experience. Things like making sure that the content above the fold line on a mobile device loads faster, right? Maybe, hey, move some of those images and pictures down so that people kind of get what they need right away, and then they can scroll and see some of that heavier content. Security issues, privacy is not really something you see a lot in Search Console, but you see security in there. If you've got some problems where Google can't really figure out which version of a page to appear for, they'll allow you in the URL parameters section to filter some of that stuff out and say, hey, search engines, don't go into this stuff. It's all duplicate of what I already have on the website. Things like a print version of a page, like question mark print equals 1 in the URL. You don't need that. Just tell the search engines, don't crawl those URLs. They're just duplicate of, the main page. So there's lots of things that Search Console will help you to do for free. And Bing has a tool set as well, the Bing Webmaster tool set, free to use. You just go in there, claim your site. They'll have you verify by adding a little piece of code to your site or through your registrar, and they'll walk you through all the things that you can pay attention to.
Okay, cool. Well, I want to switch over to just a minute to, I guess, to more the business side of what you do. I know that, you started doing this yourself, and now you've got a team that you manage. And, I look at it, I'm more the numbers guy in the spreadsheets. And so, it's easier for me to manage a team because 2 and 2 is always should always equal 4. There's really no interpretation of that.
Sure.
But when you start talking about creative, my creative or what I think is going to differ from what you think. And so, what are some of those challenges that you've had to overcome, and what are some solutions to, go from, the guy that was coding it to now managing a team?
The first thing first pill that I had to swallow is that I couldn't do it myself.
Yeah.
When I was early in my career, I left the corporate world in 2010. I had to do everything myself. It's all I had. I had no other income than what I was bringing in with my freelance clients, and I had to do everything myself. But as I was able to bring in salespeople to help me sell some of the things that I was doing, they sold for 3 times as much as I was selling for, because they're salespeople and I wasn't. I was a tech geek. So they saw the value in what we were providing with SEO, and they sold it accordingly. So I was able to make significantly more money. And with that, instead of just saying, hey, I'm going to buy a mansion and sports cars and whatever, I reinvested and put it back into the business to get more people to help me to streamline, get more mini me's, right? So that I wouldn't have to do all the work. Right. I think that was something I learned right away is, look at the value of what you're providing and change your costs if you need to. We have a friend of ours that works with us, who's called Mr. Charge Higher Prices. And his thing is always charge more and have your clients thank you for it. Yeah. And he hit it on the nail, because if you charge respective to the quality of what you're providing, people will want to pay it. You don't have to sell. They'll come to you because they heard you're the best at what you do, and they're willing to pay what they feel is a reasonable value for it. It's not about the cost. If their clients are looking for low cost, cheap products, and that's what you do, great. But if you have a lot of pride in what you do, then don't target those kind of clients. Don't look for the I'm looking for a cheap discount offer or whatever. Look for somebody who knows that when we go through an hour of planning with a client for their digital marketing, and they take that planning and update their website, and 6 months later they're getting an extra $20,000-$30,000 a month in revenue from their site, and they paid us $200 for that call.
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty easy to see where some of the value can be in what we do in this industry. So how we differentiated ourselves before anything else was transparency. Coming from the corporate world and working for Disney Parks and Resorts and IBM and some of those other great brands, I had already established a sense of we're transparent about everything, our reporting, what we do, how we operate. We don't keep anything secret. So with us, when we set up a project management system for our clients, we include the clients. When we set up a Google Drive folder to store all the documents that we're working on and don't keep anything local, we give the client admin access to that so that they can pull it down whatever they want to and back it up, or interact with us in the Google Sheets and Google Docs. We keep 100% transparency so the client knows that we're not extortioning them. They own it, they run it. We're just their wingman.
Yeah.
And that gives your client a sense of like a peace of mind, and they're never going to want to leave, because they know that if they go to another agency, or if they decide, you know what, I'm going to try another group to see if I can go faster, that other group's going to say, okay, we're not going to give you access to anything. We're not going to tell you about what we do, because that's our secret sauce.
Yeah.
And when you go away from us, we get to keep everything we did, and you're going to have to start all over.
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, no, this is my marketing. This is my brand. I'm going to bring someone in who's going to support that, not own that.
Right.
And I think that's what differentiated us.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's important, within reason, that we can either focus on price or we can focus on the value that we add. And, my opinion and what I've seen is, if you focus on price, you're always going to be fighting that battle. Somebody's always going to be trying to underprice you. And so, making that switch to what value do we actually provide? Because, as a consumer, I buy from people I like, I buy from people I trust, and I'm willing to pay a premium for that, for certain things. I know lower cost items is probably not as big of an issue, but when we start talking about services and high dollar things, it makes a difference, because I want to know, the things like you said, that all this is my information, you're supporting me, those are things that are important to me.
Absolutely. And we know there's a lot of snake oil in SEO, and it gets a really bad name sometimes. I mean,
Right.
every business owner has gotten the call, hey, this is so-and-so with Google. And it's really just some agency trying to sell them on some $200 a month product that does nothing for them other than extort them and take, access away from their own tools. So we created a site called SEO Verified. And basically it allows business owners to have this little interview sheet. So when they're talking to new SEO companies, they can say, hey, by the way, do I have admin access to my analytics, or do you own that? Do you own the content that you create for me, or do I? Right? Asking all those important questions so they don't have to worry about starting over if they decide to shift from one agency to another. And I thought it was a neat thing to do to kind of give back to the business community. We got a lot of negative feedback from some agencies when we first started it, because they're like, our business model is this, and if we give our client access to the site, they're going to break things. And like, well, if they break things, it's their fault. That's because you didn't communicate with them about what you should and shouldn't be doing. But that's their website. You can't block them from editing their own website,
Right.
So, and I get it. If a client goes in and strips out all the keywords I used and titles and descriptions, and their rankings go down, and they come back later and they're mad at me because their traffic slowed down, I get that. But that's why we educate and collaborate with our clients ahead of time. Let them know, by the way, any change you make to the website, let us know so that we can give you feedback. When Applebee's and IHOP, when they do press releases, hey, Wiideman, anything we can do from an SEO standpoint on this before we blast it out all over the internet? Sure. Can you make sure you're not linking to the homepage, but to the actual specials page?
Yeah.
Things like that. So having that communication and that relationship with your clients prevents those things from happening. So I think if you're a business owner, whether you're doing digital marketing or something else, just making sure your client has enough education on what they're buying, so that they don't come back later and are disappointed. Setting the right expectations, of course, and making it very clear. Here's what you're purchasing, and here's what's not included, and what you can do to take care of those as well.
Yeah, I think communication, in any business is it's something we've gotten away from, but I think it's an important factor from all aspects, and that education part as well. But unfortunately, it's because what I think about is that guy that, the guy that calls you up and says, oh my gosh, I've got this plan, if you'll just send me $200, we're going to get this started.
Right.
And they don't take the time to, well, who are you? I mean, you may sell this widget, but what's your positioning versus the next guy? And I just always say that's a huge red flag with any service. If somebody doesn't ask you a lot of questions about,
they got those dialers now too. It's so ridiculous.
Yeah.
I know exactly what you mean. When I'm talking to somebody I really want to work with, I take the time to do the research. It takes about 30 minutes to an hour to come up with enough information to help and give them something for free. And if they take that and run with it and never hire you, that's fine. They're still going to know who you are and remember you, and you're probably going to get a referral out of it down the road.
Right.
But at least you're providing value and showing where, where the sort of the sense of deficit is and where the opportunity is. Hey, I took a look at the current competitive landscape, and it turns out you've got about 26% of the share of voice and your competitor has 30. Here's what they're doing. Here's some suggestions on what you can do to combat that. We'd love to do a full analysis and see how we can help you build out an entire roadmap. But here are some starter things that we identified in looking at your top competitors, your top keywords, where your competitors are getting links from that you're not. And it gives you a starting point of some things to work with. And if you want more of that, we're around,
Yeah, and you mentioned this earlier, but people are concerned that they're giving the secret sauce away. And I kind of look at it the other way, is that first off, we're educating,
Yeah.
number one priority. And then sometimes, though, we can actually show people why this is difficult, why you need to hire me. Because when they get this, they're like, oh my gosh, I don't even know. This looks like it's, written in a different language. So,
Exactly. Well, Roy, that's what got me into teaching. I saw that so much that I said, you know what, I've got so much in my head that I want to share, that I want to get out. So many, thousands of title tag tests that we've done to see, what users respond to, and so many usability tests and things. So I said, I'm going to start teaching. So I teach at Cal State Fullerton, an SEO strategy course, and they threw me into their landscape class. Yeah. And then on the analytics side at UC San Diego, I get to teach, web SEO tools and analytics. So we get to kind of show students how to create KPI sheets, so they know, how to start with a baseline report. Here's where we are, and here's where I think we can be in a year from now. And at Fullerton community, SEO, web design, SEM, website promotion, we kind of do all these courses for the digital marketing. And with those, it's the same thing. I get to put these videos together. Here's how to do it and present it when you're going out into the job world, so that you're educating first, and that you're creating a roadmap and a strategy first. You're not just doing SEO. You're not just doing Facebook. Right. You've got an actual roadmap for technical, contextual, and off page.
Yeah. No, that's so important. I was going to ask you too about the Academy of Search that you're building. Yes. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. So, when you get to 11 years, of teaching and consulting and training, you start to put a lot of content together, a lot of best practices. So we decided, let's start creating some videos. We created one that mimics my course at Cal State Fullerton. In fact, if your listeners want to take that one at Academy of Search, just use my handle SEO Steve as a code, and you get free access. Okay. We're revamping it, but that code will still be good. So, just write it down, log it, make sure you have it. In the next few months, we're going to be launching a series of smaller bite-sized videos, not a full 6-week course like the one that's on there right now. So if you want to just learn something with on-page optimization, how do I get my one page to rank better? There'll be something on that. There's going to be one on how to use basic Google Analytics. So if you're just new to analytics, here's a way that you can dive in and get just what you need as a starting point. So we're putting those together, and it's just one of a few things that we're trying to do to scale as a consultancy. There's so many hours in a day.
Right.
So we figured let's put some videos up. Let's see if we can put some $30, $40 videos up, and if it works and people get the training they want, maybe they'll buy more of them. Maybe they'll come back to us and ask us to do a strategy for them, and we can apply what they've already put into it. So it's a cool way to give back, to create a low cost way to learn. But it's based on corporate experience in my days, at Disney, as well as 11 years of consulting for some of the most exciting brands, that you probably know of.
Well, that's awesome, and we appreciate the code, and I'll be sure to include all that in the show notes as well. Sweet. But yeah, that's awesome. I think I love the approach, because again, there's going to be a certain number of people that just either aren't going to do anything, or they may dabble a little bit themselves. But this just really shows that you need an expert in in really whatever space. It doesn't matter if it's SEO, marketing, bookkeeping, is that, we're all we all have our own talent. So we need to hire talent to do these things and really make it count.
I wouldn't have made it had I not brought in the people that I brought in to help. Without, Brian Fernandez, our creative director, we wouldn't be half as presentable at conferences and presentations that we've done. Yeah. Without Hansel over here, I wouldn't have been able to manage those 3,500 locations that we take care of with our restaurant chains. So you're right. Bringing in the right people that have experience, you know, and maybe there's a way to do it for business owners where you bring them in to set the foundation for you and give some training to a less expensive resource to manage it.
Yeah.
Some people are fine with that. Some people aren't looking for a career. They're looking for a project. They'll come in, help you set everything up for you the way that it should be set up, train somebody who's fresh out of college who wants to learn, especially for small businesses, and then they run the fort. And if they need that other person, you just pay time material for consulting.
Right.
I think that's a great strategy for businesses that don't want to hire 6 people full time. Bring those experts in, lay out the groundwork, and then hire somebody more affordable out of school.
Yeah, and with the gig economy and with these sites where you can go out and hire professional, you know, what we call fractional professionals. I mean, it's such it's really a nice innovation because you know, I can't afford to put on a $100,000 a year, you know, CFO or something like that, but I can certainly reach out and you know, get it on those project based, which is a lot better, you know, in the long term till you can actually afford that. So
absolutely, I love it.
Great advice. Well, Steve, I appreciate you taking time out of your day to be with us. Such great information. Before we get away, a couple questions.
Sure.
What is a tool or a habit, something that you do or use every day that you feel like adds a lot of value?
Ooh, I've got
and it could be professional or personal, either one.
Oh my God, I have so many apps on my phone for productivity. I can't even tell you. I don't know. My favorite right now, I'm using Evernote, right? I use that for everything. I journal there every day. I stage my to-dos of things that I'm working on and focusing on. Evernote's been, you know, a pretty awesome productivity tool for me.
Yeah.
I'd say that's super helpful. For digital marketers, I'd say my favorite tool is SEMrush right now for smaller businesses. SEMrush is a great suite to manage your digital marketing. But yeah, I'd say I use that and I use Slack with my team, with you know, other groups that I'm in. It's helped me collaborate with other experts in ways that I couldn't have done in social media. So I'd say keep Slack on your phone, join some Slack groups of people that are in your industry that you can collaborate with. And then, yeah, Evernote's just a really good productivity tool.
Yeah, all three of those are great. I think I use all of those. So that's you know, the one thing about the Evernote, what we've been trying to do is, you know, get rid of piles of paper and filing cabinets. And with Evernote or some other apps out there, you know, it's so easy to take a picture of that receipt, file it away, or take a picture of that document. And then you don't need the, you know, I guess legal papers, you know, ask your professionals before you get rid of anything, you know, important. But, you know, for a lot of the just stuff that we keep around, take a picture of it and store it digitally, get it out of the way.
It works. I love it.
Yeah. All right, Steve. Well, tell us, first off, who do you like to work with? How can you help them? And then, of course, how can they reach out and get in touch with you?
We always try to save the world, right? And it's good and bad. It's good because I feel like we get to give back, but it's bad because sometimes we get a little overwhelmed. But we want to help. So if there's something that we can do, we're not working with a lot of small businesses. So if we are helping somebody, it's going to be free. So if you want to reach out on social, my handle's SEO Steve. You know, our company handle is Wiideman, Wiideman. If you want to ask a question, why is our page not ranking? How come this competitor is beating me? How do I show up in the maps? Ask those questions. We're going to help you, and we're not going to charge you anything. Our target of, you know, the clients that we do still want to work with are usually multi-location brands. You know, those that have 100 to, you know, a few thousand locations, and they want to try to figure out how to scale. So those are the ones that we've had a really good track record with, and have learned some things that make the process a little bit more seamless and a little less effort on the side of the, you know, points of contact we work with. So I'd say those are the folks that we do really, really well with. But we've worked with in 11 years every type of client you can imagine, Roy. So if you've got an SEO question, or you want, you know, some free templates or checklists, or you're about ready to build a new website and you want to know what prerequisite stock to use, you're upgrading your website and you want to make sure you don't lose SEO during that process, hit us up. We've got plenty of those guides, and we're happy to share them with you for free.
That's awesome. Well, Steve, thanks so much for being here. We certainly do appreciate it. Y'all reach out to Steve, see how he can help you out. A lot of great information in this program as well.
Thanks, Roy. This has been great.
Yeah. Been a lot of fun. All right. Well, that's going to do it for this episode of the Business of Business podcast. Of course, I am your host, Roy. You can find us at www.thebusinessofbusinesspodcast.com. We're on all the major podcast platforms, iTunes, Stitcher, Google, Spotify. We're on all the major social media networks. Probably hang out on Instagram a little more, reach out. We'd love to engage. And a video of this interview will go live when it goes, will go up when the episode goes live. So be sure to go over to our YouTube channel and check that out, as well as our other episodes. Until next time, take care of yourself and take care of your business.